Talking about electromobility very often only means you talk about range, but if you do this a bit more emotional, you may come to the point where Audi just arrived, which is the new Audi RS e-tron GT. And this is the prototype I'm going to drive today to explain to you what it means if you go to the peak of e-mobility. The two electric engines, they offer together 475 kilowatts or a bit less than 650 horsepower. And on top of that, you get 830 Newton meters of maximum torque. And you also have the all-wheel drive on board, and that provides you with driving fun and performance in every situation. The power and the all-wheel drive of the e-tron GT makes the car accelerate like hell. So it's less than 3.5 seconds from 0 to 100 kilometers or 60 miles per hour. And to check that out, I was allowed to do an acceleration, a quarter of a mile race against the clock at night. Wow! And I can tell you that car really accelerates like hell, and then you can see how easy it is to go from 0 to 200 with a car like that. The car we're driving today is a prototype, but it's very close to the production model, and so it makes perfect sense to have a closer look at the exterior design. So when you look at the front of our car, it is very flat. The hood is very close to the ground, so the car looks extremely wide, but it's only 1.95 m in width. And one reason for the look of the car are these new headlamps. They always come as standard as LED headlights, but if you want, you can have matrix LED with laser high beam as well. And then looking at the front, you do find this massive shaped grille here. Of course, it's not a standard grille because that's not a combustion engine, but the look and the shape is very, very close to what you normally see with an Audi combustion car. And then you do find the front bumper with these aero elements here to give the car the extra sportiness, the kick, and so the car from the front looks very massive, very solidly on the road. And the interesting thing is Audi made the decision not to make a big difference between the RS and the standard model, and why they did this, I asked an expert about that. What Audi did with the suspension is fabulous. The car really sits so solidly on the road, and it's 2.3 tons we're talking about. And the very nice thing is you do have in comfort mode a really comfortable car. Like now here on this very bumpy road, it's an absolute pleasure to drive. And if you want to turn it a bit more crisp, the car really gets from a comfortable ride into a very, very sporty car. So next to me now is Rolf Michel. He's head of sales and marketing Audi Sport. Rolf, I have two questions. One is the new e-tron is a GT. So why is it a GT? Why you choose this kind of a car? And the other thing is you told me that there will be not a big difference between the RS and the standard model when it comes to the production car. And what is the reason for that?
So if you have a look at the RS models in the past, it's always a superb performance in combination with a striking design. And that is what a Gran Turismo is all about. It's a high driving performance in combination with a breathtaking design. And the second thing is the differentiation. If we translate the RS into the future, it's all about the interior values. So understatement, character, and a sovereign driving performance. This is the clue to translate RS into the future.
The steering of the e-tron GT is quite easy, but not unprecise. And that combination provides you with a very cozy feeling while driving. But on the other hand, you can really drive the car extremely sporty because it's so precise that the car always goes exactly there where you want it to be. Talking about an electric car, you normally not instantly think about sound because there's no combustion engine, so no noise. But Audi thinks different, and you can really hear that when you hit the pedal. There will be 3 different wheel sizes available for the GT when it hits the market: 19, 20 and 21 inch. And I assume that the standard e-tron GT will have 19 inch on board. The RS model we're driving 20, and the 21 inch mounted on our car will be the optional extra. But as you see, they look very nice inside of these wheel arches. Overall, the car is 4.99 meters in length, but the wheelbase features 2.89 meters. And it's only 1.40 meters in height, and that gives the car the typical proportions of a GT. On top you find a very long hood, a quite narrow glass house quite to the rear of the car, and then this floating end of the car. On top you do have these massive wheel arches here, and that is the typical look of a GT. And the idea behind that was Audi wanted to have the perfect car that is combining two things: power and the opportunity to drive comfortably long distances. And this is typical for a Gran Turismo, and that's what you're going to get with the new e-tron GT. The base model of the e-tron GT will feature steel brakes, but if you buy the RS model, you're going to find some which feature carbide on top of it. And that makes them not only last longer, but they're also a bit more heavy. But if you say that's not enough for me in my driving style, of course you can have ceramic brakes as well. Developing an electric performance vehicle is not easy, and it means you have to have defined targets and you have to know how to challenge that targets. And so, Rolf, my question is, what were the biggest challenges while developing that car, and what was your biggest milestones when it comes to produce something like it?
Of course, the biggest challenge was to translate the RS into the future. We have high customer requests, of course, to the driving performance and the design, and to meet all these requests, to translate the first version into a fully electric RS, this is the RS e-tron GT, and we're quite content about that. And talking about the milestone, I think the first personal milestone for me was driving for the first time a fully electric performance BEV and reflecting, wow, this thing is going to have a huge acceleration. And for me personally, that stays even at that time when I see it again.
The exterior of the e-tron GT and the RS e-tron GT is not a big difference. But at the interior, latest when you push the pedal to the metal, you know what car you're driving. At the rear, you can extremely see this massive shoulders and these wheel arches here, so that really provides the car with a very solid stand. Looking at the lights, this is the unique signature here, and you have this light bar that runs from one side to the other, and this gives the car extra width as well. On top of this, you have this spoiler here, which comes out or goes in depending on your drive, but you of course can use that manually as well. And then to give the car extra sportiness and a better drag coefficient, you have this massive diffuser here. So the rear is the view which I like the most, because that really tells you this is not only sportiness, this is pure sport. A feature of the e-tron GT is a rear axle steering, and that provides you with two things. One, tight corners are a lot easier to drive, and if you do high-speed driving on a motorway and you want to change lanes, the car stays more stable easily. Driving that car on these roads, I have to tell you, it's a real pleasure. If you brake, fine. If you accelerate, massive. So nothing to complain about. That's really pure driving. Our car is a prototype, so I'm not allowed to show you any of the interior, but what I can tell you is the seats is very comfortable and offers loads of support, and the rest at the moment, who cares, while having such a lot of fun while driving that car. Prototype of the Audi RS e-tron GT. And I have to tell you, that car really is something that shows you what you can achieve when you talk about electromobility and you just talk about having fun while driving. It's not only the acceleration, it's not only the power, it's the driving comfort and the stiffness of the car on both sides, 100% pure driving fun. And then you get about 400 kilometers of range, so something that really works. And driving that car to tight corners on a motorway, wherever you want, acceleration, whatever you talk about, an absolutely marvelous, exciting thing to do. The downside is the price, because in Germany the RS version will start at about 138,000 euros, but for that you get emission-free, but not emotion-free driving pleasure.